Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. You know, one thing that really fascinates me is how humans all over the world and throughout history have found ways to mark new beginnings.
Oh, absolutely. And today we're diving into one of the most universal celebrations, New Year's. We've got some incredible research here spanning centuries and cultures
Yeah.
that really reveals...
Did a global reset button, right?
Mhm.
Chance to wipe the slate clean and start fresh.
Exactly. And it goes beyond the parties and fireworks. At its core, New Year's is about recognizing the cycles of time and our place within them.
It's a powerful concept.
Yeah.
So where did this tradition begin? Take us back to the very beginning.
Well, our journey starts in ancient Mesopotamia, around 2000 BCE with the Babylonians. They celebrated a festival called Akitu.
Akitu.
Akitu, yeah. It was an 11-day festival that coincided with the spring equinox and the start of the agricultural cycle.
So for them, the new year was about more than just a date on the calendar. It was about the turn of life to the land.
Precisely. It was a celebration of renewal, both in nature and in their own lives.
That makes so much sense. And it highlights how even today, New Year's celebrations connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. Now, let's fast forward a few centuries to 46 BCE. This is when Julius Caesar introduces the Julian calendar.
Ah, yes. And with that, we get January 1st as the start of the year.
That's right.
But why January? Was there something special about that month for the Romans?
Well, January is named for Janus, the Roman god of beginnings, doorways, and transitions.
Janus, the two-faced god.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's often depicted with two faces, one looking back at the past and the other looking forward to the future.
That's incredibly symbolic, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a perfect representation of what New Year's is all about, reflecting on the past and embracing the possibilities of what's to come.
It's amazing how these ancient beliefs and symbols still resonate with us today. But our research shows that there was a time when New Year's wasn't the main event in Europe. What happened during the Middle Ages?
Well, for a period, religious holidays like Christmas and Easter overshadowed New Year's celebrations.
So New Year's took a backseat for a while.
Yes, it did. But then in 1582, Pope Gregory III introduces the Gregorian calendar.
The calendar most of the world uses today.
Exactly. And this calendar solidified January 1st as the start of the year, bringing New Year celebrations back to the forefront.
It's interesting how the calendar we use today played such a role in shaping how we celebrate the new year. But it's not the only calendar out there, is it?
Not at all. The Gregorian calendar, which is based on the sun cycle, is widely used.
Well, solar calendar.
Yes, the solar calendar. But many cultures follow lunar or lunisolar calendars, which are based on the cycles of the moon.
So their New Year's Day would shift every year, depending on the moon.
Precisely. A great example is the Chinese New Year, which falls somewhere between late January and mid-February.
It makes you realize that our concept of time isn't as fixed as we might think.
It's true. There are so many ways to mark the passage of time and celebrate new beginnings. And speaking of celebrations, the ways people around the world celebrate New Year's are incredibly diverse.
Absolutely. We've got fireworks, feasts, resolutions.
And so much more. It's a fascinating mix of global traditions and unique cultural customs.
Let's dive into those, shall we? I'm curious to learn about some of the more unique traditions from around the world.
Oh, you're in for a treat. There are some truly fascinating and, dare I say, bizarre customs out there.
Well, let's hear them.
All right, let's start with fireworks. I mean, they're practically a universal symbol of New Year's, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. Those explosions of color and light really capture the excitement and hope of a new year.
It's like a visual representation of all the possibilities that lie ahead.
And let's not forget about feasts. Who doesn't love an excuse to gather with loved ones and enjoy delicious food?
Feasts are all about togetherness and sharing the joy of new beginnings.
It's that communal aspect of New Year's that's so special. And then, of course, we have resolutions.
Ah, yes. Those promises we make to ourselves for self-improvement.
It's a pretty modern concept, isn't it?
Well, actually, the idea of making resolutions has ancient roots. The Babylonians, during their Akitu festival, would make promises to their gods for a prosperous year.
Wow. So the idea of starting the year with a commitment to positive change goes way back.
Exactly. It seems like this desire to improve ourselves and strive for something better is a common thread throughout history.
It's inspiring to think that we're connected to those who came before us in this way. But beyond fireworks, feasts, and resolutions, there are some cultures that have some truly unique New Year's traditions.
Oh, absolutely. Our research mentions some pretty wild ones.
Well, don't leave us hanging. Give us an example.
All right, let's take Scotland's Hogmanay celebration. Have you ever heard of it?
Hogmanay. Rings a bell, but I'm not sure I know the details.
Well, imagine this. They parade giant fireballs through the streets.
Wait, seriously? Fireballs?
Yes. It's this dramatic purification ritual symbolizing the burning away of the old year and welcoming in the new with a fiery spectacle.
Wow, that's intense. I can only imagine the energy and excitement of that.
It's quite a sight to behold. And that's just one example. There are so many other fascinating traditions out there, each with its own story to tell.
It sounds like we've got a whole world of New Year's customs to explore.
We do. And each one offers a unique glimpse into the human desire for renewal and the celebration of new beginnings. From fire rituals in Scotland to, well, all sorts of things.
It seems like every culture has found a way to express this need for a fresh start.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that even in our differences, we're united by the shared human experience.
Speaking of global connections, let's zoom in on some specific New Year's celebrations from around the world. What about Times Square? I mean, you can't talk about New Year's without mentioning the ball drop.
Oh, absolutely. Times Square in New York City is iconic. That ball drop tradition goes all the way back to 1907.
And now millions of people around the world tune in to watch it happen.
It's become this global spectacle, a symbol of New Year's Eve for so many.
It's amazing to think that no matter where you are or what your own traditions are, you can share in that moment of anticipation as the ball descends.
It really speaks to the unifying power of New Year's Eve.
Now, how about somewhere a little further away?
Yeah.
What about Sydney, Australia? I've heard their fireworks display is incredible.
Oh, Sydney's New Year's Eve fireworks are absolutely breathtaking. They set them off over the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and it's just stunning.
Yeah, I've seen pictures, and it looks magical.
And since Sydney is one of the first major cities to ring in the new year, it feels like they're kicking off the global celebration.
Leading the charge into the future. Okay, and what about Rio? I've always wanted to experience New Year's Eve in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Oh, Rio's celebrations are legendary. Imagine massive fireworks over Copacabana Beach, everyone dressed in white for good luck, music, dancing. It's this incredible fusion of energy, tradition, and pure joy.
White for good luck. I like that. You know, we've talked about some pretty big celebrations, but I'm really drawn to the more traditional aspects of the Chinese New Year.
Oh, the Chinese New Year is so rich in symbolism and tradition. It's a time for family gatherings, lion and dragon dances, the giving of red envelopes for good fortune. It's really a feast for the senses.
It's a beautiful reminder of the importance of heritage and community as we step into the future.
Absolutely. Now, while we've been focusing on some of the more well-known celebrations, we can't forget about all the quirky and fascinating traditions that exist around the world.
Oh, yeah. Our research uncovered some pretty wild customs. Fill us in.
Okay, so in Spain, they eat 12 grapes at midnight, one for each month of the coming year.
12 grapes. That sounds like a challenge.
I know, right? It's supposed to bring good luck for the year ahead. And speaking of warding off bad luck, in Denmark, people throw old plates and glasses at their friends and family's doors.
Why, they throw dishes. Why?
It's thought to banish any bad spirits or negativity from the previous year. Kind of a dramatic way to start fresh, wouldn't you say?
I guess if you want to make sure the bad luck is gone, you got to go all out. Now, if you're hoping for a year filled with travel, you might want to head to Colombia. Apparently, they have this tradition where you carry an empty suitcase around the block on New Year's Eve.
That's right. It's supposed to guarantee a year filled with exciting adventures and journeys.
So if I want to experience all these amazing global celebrations firsthand, I better grab my suitcase tonight.
Exactly. It's all about setting your intentions and visualizing your dreams for the year ahead.
I love it. You know, amidst all these diverse customs, there's one tradition that seems to unite much of the Western world. Singing Auld Lang Syne at midnight.
Ah, yes. Auld Lang Syne, the quintessential New Year's Eve anthem.
It's such a classic. But
Yeah.
did you know that it wasn't originally intended as a New Year's song?
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah, it actually comes from a poem written by the Scottish poet Robert Burns back in 1788.
Interesting. So how did it become so associated with New Year's?
Well, it seems that a Canadian band leader named Guy Lombardo popularized it back in the 1920s. He played it during his New Year's Eve broadcasts in New York City. And from there, it just took off.
That's amazing. It's fascinating how a poem about friendship and reminiscing became such a global anthem for new beginnings.
It just goes to show how traditions can evolve and take on new meanings over time.
It really does. And speaking of names and traditions, did you know that in some parts of Europe, New Year's Eve is actually called Sylvester?
Sylvester. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's common in countries like Germany and Austria. It's named after Pope Sylvester I, whose feast day falls on December 31st.
So instead of saying Happy New Year's Eve, they'd say Happy Sylvester.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even within Europe, there are these fascinating regional variations in how people celebrate.
It's incredible how diverse these New Year's traditions are.
Mm.
But whether you're celebrating Sylvester or New Year's Eve, the sentiment is the same. It's a time for reflection, celebration, and embracing new beginnings.
And speaking of embracing new beginnings, we've got a few more fascinating traditions to share. For instance, in Italy, people wear red underwear on New Year's Eve.
Red underwear, what's that about?
It's supposed to bring good luck and love for the coming year.
Okay, that's a tradition I can get behind. Sounds a lot more fun than throwing furniture out the window, which, believe it or not, is a custom in some parts of the world.
Throwing furniture out the window? Wow. I guess that's one way to get rid of the old and make way for the new.
Talk about a fresh start. From red underwear to flying furniture. It seems like people have come up with some pretty creative ways to ring in the new year.
It really is remarkable. And, it's all about letting go of the past and embracing those possibilities for the future.
This whole deep dive has been such a journey. We have explored so much. Ancient history, cultural nuances, and some, well, pretty outrageous traditions. It really makes you realize how one simple concept can be interpreted and celebrated in so many different ways around the world.
It's a testament to that human spirit, wouldn't you say? Our need to connect and our fascination with time.
I'm feeling inspired to try some of these traditions myself. Maybe I'll give that Colombian suitcase thing a try. Who knows? Maybe I'll even attempt those 12 grapes at midnight.
Why not? Embrace that spirit of New Year's and find what resonates with you. It doesn't matter if it's a big celebration or just a quiet moment of reflection. What really matters is that you welcome the new year with an open heart.
After exploring all these different customs, I think it's clear that the essence of New Year's really lies in that shared human desire for renewal, right? That sense of connection and the hope for a fresh start.
It's that moment we all share to pause, to reflect, and to look ahead with optimism and a renewed sense of purpose.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into New Year's celebrations, we want to leave you with this. What do new beginnings mean to you? What are your hopes, your dreams for the future?
Think about your own personal traditions, the people you cherish, and the goals you want to achieve.
Whether you're watching those fireworks light up the sky, or sharing a meal with loved ones, or even just taking a quiet moment for yourself, may the new year be filled with joy and connection and everything you hope for.
Happy New Year, everyone.